episode 1 of the podcast. Very excited to be here. Been talking about this for weeks and weeks and weeks on the YouTube channel, and the day is finally here. And my name is Glenn Lamont. This is my co-host.
My name is Harj.
Just Harj. Just like Elvis and Sting and Prince. Just Harj.
I might say something here that deems me unemployable.
No,
so I gotta protect that fucking last name.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all I got.
So we got a lot to talk about today, and a lot of stuff to cover. But right now, let's
One thing I wanted to talk about first, though, was name of the podcast.
Yeah,
Wallace,
we don't have one.
Wallace Hartley Presents.
The name of the YouTube channel is Wallace Hartley Presents.
Okay.
Wallace Hartley was the band leader on the Titanic.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's a foreshadowing of where this podcast is going.
Okay.
Or,
did they let him on a lifeboat?
You know what? I don't know what his fate was.
We should
as far as I know, he went down with the ship like the captain.
Okay.
So there you go.
Okay, so I had some ideas before. I think that brown shirt, white hat was canned.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, it was. For good reason.
Yeah. Rome is Burning podcast?
Rome is Burning. I like that. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, it's been burning for a long time. I don't know when the job's going to be done, but...
Anything else?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
So the name's still there. The name thing is still... Maybe that can be our shtick. Like, we'll just keep having a new name.
I agree.
Every single podcast.
So, on the YouTube channel, please subscribe and comment. And if you have any great ideas after watching this, if you watch it, if you last all the way through it, please give us some comments with ideas regarding naming the podcast.
Yeah. And say whatever you want, because we have no hopes of ever being monetized whatsoever. Ever.
That's very true. But we
drink Pepsi though.
Yeah. Okay, let's just not go there. But yeah, do comment, because we want to keep the dialogue going. We want to be able to address whoever happens to be listening to this. And
brown on rice.
Brown. You're not gonna leave it alone, are you? So I discovered the other day that it was March 13th, and it was kind of the day before I think we officially went into lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and I remember this because this last week I've had to go back, and because of a program that I was involved in before COVID-19 and lockdown and everything hit. And speaking of getting in trouble at work, but a certain director was supposed to do something, and lo and behold didn't do it. So I got a call saying, hey, you need to come and fix this. So I had to go back and check all the dates, and I'm like, when did the program end? March 13th. And then the next day, I remember, I think I mentioned this to you before, we had a temp filling in at the front desk for admin who said they're going to make a big announcement this morning. And I was like, what? About what? Oh, about what's going to happen with whether it's going to be like Italy and Spain. And I'm like, I don't think they're going to make a big announcement. And she was like, I know they will, because my mom works for the government. Well, I walked away going, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Captain Crazy.
She's a fucking meter maid.
Yeah, and no, as it turns out, she was right. They did announce that morning, about a half hour later, that, okay, we're locking everything down. And so we have been through this roller coaster of lockdown and PPE and COVID-19, protocols and everything else. People are now, because we're in what our hero here in British Columbia, in Vancouver, British Columbia, Dr. Bonnie Henry, who is our provincial health officer, who everybody loves for some reason. And
do they?
They do. They can't say enough about her. It's you know, and again,
you haven't hung out in Chilliwack too much, have you? I mean, I fucking haven't either.
I grew up in the valley.
Well, I'm just guessing right now that there's certain places where she's not much of a fucking hero.
Well, yeah, but out there, go out there, they want to burn her because she's a witch.
Yeah.
You know? But hey, no offense to anybody who's listening in the Fraser Valley. So, anyways, we've been through this whole.
I purchased my wife in the Fraser Valley, so I mean.
Did you?
Yes, I did. So fucking kudos to the Fraser Valley.
So, and again, I choose to ignore that because that's a whole other episode. Anyways, yeah.
She actually purchased me because they paid the dowry.
Now, who's they? Is this a cultural thing?
Her parents.
Was this an arranged marriage?
I got paid. It wasn't an arranged marriage, but I still got paid.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Our lives are so different.
That's why I haven't been too worried about this COVID.
Well,
because I got that gold all stocked away.
So we're in what they're calling phase 2 now,
mm-hmm.
and people are starting, and it's, you know, I've been talking to a lot of people, and I've been talking to a lot of people, and in healthcare, because you and I both work in the addictions and mental health field, and of course, so they're saying, a lot of health professionals are saying, you know what, in general, everybody's been pretty great, and I'm guessing maybe they're right, but I don't see that. I see my neighborhood, which is an absolute shit show. It is the parks in my neighborhood up by my house are basically at night. It's an outdoor bar. By day, it's a gym.
Who's hanging out there?
You know what? My neighborhood is upwardly mobile. I'm gonna say it never used to be. It's gentrified. It's a gentrified East Vancouver neighborhood, and
so I'm picturing hipster dipshits.
Yeah, it's hipster central, and there's a lot of young people. I think a lot of people who work in tech. A lot of disposable income, and so that's what I see. But I think in general, going by the fact that we've flattened the curve, we must be doing an okay job. We're doing a better job than America. As far and I that's not a good comparison because anybody could be doing a better job than them. So right now we're in phase 2, and for some reason phase 2 just means it's over. Come on, let's party. We're done now. We don't have to stay in the house anymore.
Yeah, what does phase 2 mean? As far as I'm concerned, phase 2 means I can go to the gym on Monday. As you can see me, you can tell I probably need to get to the
phase 2
gym.
You said you've been doing nothing but working out.
Yeah, but I need to get to a gym.
Right. Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Anyways, phase 2 just simply means that we're supposed to be easing back in to some sense of normalcy. But to me, what it really means is let's get the economy going again, because it's all about capitalism, right?
Yeah.
It's like we cannot have people not making money. Because then who's going to pay taxes? So, phase 2.
Just print some more fucking money.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be like pre-World War II in Germany when people were walking around with wheelbarrows full of Deutschmarks.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's what we're in phase 2 right now. And, there's so much going on in the world. And yet we have been so focused on COVID-19 and lockdown and health and all these things, right? So I think we've been missing a lot. And you know yourself, because you're Mr. Conspiracy Guy, you know yourself that when there's anything big like this to focus on, that's when they slide through all...
Yeah, lots of weird things. Strange things happen.
That's when strange things happen, but also that's when they slide through legislation, because nobody's looking, nobody's paying attention, right?
Or weird shit just happens in the world that would be front page news on any other day, but it's like page 12.
Yeah, that's right.
like Stupid Bay of Pigs, attempted coup in Venezuela by some
that was too funny.
Just jacked up dude bros, like.
Yeah, that was that's a Sylvester Stallone
for
movie.
$300 million with Juan Guaido's name signed on the contract. Insane.
Yeah, I know, and let me tell you, I was like, there's a couple of guys I follow on Instagram and on YouTube, and two of these guys are ex Special Forces. One is ex Navy SEAL, Sean Ryan. He's got a great channel on YouTube, and the other guy is from Fieldcraft Survival. That's the name of his channel. And oh my God, I can't believe I forgot his name. Anyways, but these guys are both ex Special Forces, and then after that they were CIA contractors, so they know their shit. Yeah. And then so I was looking at some stuff on Instagram that people that asked him about them, and apparently this guy is like, he's well known in the Spec Ops community, but not for good reasons. Yeah. So basically, what I got from it was like, this was the last guy you want to send, and also the fact that America is completely denying that we don't know him. But they'll do everything to get him out. Yeah, they'll do everything to get him out. But we don't know. How can you say you don't know him? Yeah. He was in the military. Yeah. He was a Green Beret. Yeah. He was an Army Ranger. And I'm sure that if we review the literature, that it's not the first time that a useful idiot was used to do something. What? We don't fucking know. No. But yeah, that was one of the things that happened for sure. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. And but really the big news right now, even though we're still in the midst of this pandemic, but the big news right now is the Floyd George. Rome is burning. Yeah. Yeah. Can we get any kind of reverb on that? Oh, I'm sure we could put it in afterwards, yeah. So, Floyd George, the murder of Floyd George by the police, by a policeman in particular, and that's been huge. And it's been huge for a number of reasons. And what I was trying to figure out, I was saying this to you earlier, that, like, why is this, as opposed to all the other murders by the police of African Americans in America, why is this getting huge press? And I'm gonna hazard a guess here that, number one, the videotape, like, they videotaped the whole thing. Yeah, it was just pretty clear cut. A white racist cop, like, putting his knee on this man's throat and him saying, "I can't breathe," like 15 times. So there was some other piece of shit brown fucker there too who seemed like a nasty piece of work as well. Well, the guy jamming up against the wall at the beginning. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. But regardless, it's everywhere. Like, you can't turn on a TV or look at a social media feed without seeing this. Oh, they're not even talking about the actual case anymore. It's moved on. No. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the thing is this will continue for a couple of more days. You're going to keep seeing the video, and you're going to keep having people comment on it, and a lot of people going, "Oh my God, I'm so upset by this. Oh my God, I can't believe that this happened." Yeah. And some people saying, "I can't even watch it. It makes me sick to my stomach." And a week from now, this is going to be not forgotten, but, it's going to be, for lack of a better term, as you said, on page 12. Because what we're not getting to here is the actual issue. Like, yes, this happened again. How it happened again? Well, systemic racism, plain and simple. So, and this is the problem. So in America, it is the African American community, and in Canada, the policing, any person of color, there's systemic racism, but especially in our country, is usually directed against the indigenous population. and women most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying this before, right? A couple weeks ago, I was downtown, and because there was so much construction going on there, that I had to detour through the downtown east side where I used to work, and I hadn't seen it in a while.
I used to work there too.
And yeah, but that was a different kind of
on
work.
the demand side.
That's right. So so driving through, and I had a client with me, and we saw a guy sitting on the ground, and he was handcuffed behind his back, and there was like 7 cops.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Is this America's Most Wanted? Is this the most dangerous man in Canada right now? That it takes 7 cops with one guy? And then the person I was with said, well, he is First Nations, right? And she was First Nations.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's right. Because of racism in the Vancouver Police Department, especially in the downtown east side, if you are First Nations, you're a criminal. Simple as that. You couldn't be there just walking down the street. You couldn't be there just working.
Well, I mean, for the most part, if you're walking down the block.
And
I'm not saying it's right, but
I used to walk there all the time.
You're in possession.
So, and then later that night, that same night, in my neighborhood, it was, went to go walking back from picking up sushi, and I walked by the park by my house, and it's like I said, it's an outdoor bar at night. There's people everywhere, and there's 2 cop cars driving by, and they just drive by, like around the block.
Yeah.
There's open liquor everywhere. There is like 100 infractions going on. And the cops do nothing because there's a bunch of privileged white people.
Yeah. Rich people, white people.
Yeah.
I mean, it sort of ties into what's going on in the States right now. I mean, a week ago, there were all those protests going on, maybe more than a week ago, at different federal legislatures in the States about open up the
You can't tell us to stay in our homes.
And not a one pepper spray fired. Not a one rubber bullet fired.
That's right.
But it happens in a predominantly colored neighborhood. In the neighborhood, it's like let's bring out the fucking batons, billy clubs, and pepper spray.
But yeah, it's so it's one of those things. Like I said, it's everywhere. Yeah. But the real problem is not one rogue cop who happens to be racist, but it's systemic racism with police forces across America and Canada. And also, let's not forget, not that long ago, Breonna Taylor, who was a first responder, a paramedic, and she was shot in her own home. Do you remember reading that?
That seems to be in that city right now. There's a lot of where is it?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Okay.
Yeah, just absolutely. No, that was in Louisville,
Kentucky.
Yeah. Right? That was the Louisville Metro Police Department. Officers Jonathan Mattingly, Brett Hankinson, and Miles Cosgrove, who entered her apartment in Louisville while serving a no-knock warrant. I don't even know what a no-knock warrant is.
Sound like a bunch of buzzcut motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, Brett and Miles. They sound like a little Ivy League kind of,
I'm picturing fucking UFC tap-out shirts.
Oh yeah,
buzzcuts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she was shot 8 times in her bed. And then when it came to Floyd George, now here's the other thing too. Any person of color who gets, if they're under suspicion, if somebody says, hey, this person did that, they're immediately going to jail. It took 4 days to lay charges. We have video of the cop with his knee on the guy's neck for like 20 minutes, but it took 4 days to charge him. Yeah. And again, I think that goes back to, when it comes to police investigations for wrongful shootings or anything like that, it's cops investigating cops.
They protect their own.
Right? Crazy. I mean, and so this is, a short list of the, police murderers. And that's the other thing. You never see that headline. Cop murders black man. It's always, wrongful shooting.
Or wrongful death during,
Yeah.
not even wrongful, it's just death during arrest.
Yeah, so, and this is all in just the past 5 years, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So Freddie Gray, do you remember that one? That was in Baltimore. He died in the back of the van, right? And there was weeks of protests there in Baltimore, Maryland. Prosecutors in July 2016 dropped all remaining charges after acquittals on a hung jury. The U.S. Department of Justice then decided not to bring federal civil rights charges. Gray's family agreed to a $6.4 million settlement. Sam Dubose, a judge in July, dismissed charges against Ray Tensing, a white former University of Cincinnati officer who fatally shot Sam Dubose, an unarmed black motorist, during a 2015 traffic stop. Philando Castile, do you remember him?
That name rings a bell. See, this is turning into like the fentanyl crisis. You can't even remember all these names. There was a name at one point, but now it's sort of lost.
Yep. St. Anthony, Minnesota. Officer Geronimo Yanez was acquitted of manslaughter in June in the fatal shooting of Philando Castile, a black motorist who had informed the officer that he was carrying a gun.
Oh, I remember this one.
He was legally carrying a gun.
Yeah, and there's a whole video of that. And he's just shit scared. He knows what's going to happen.
And was that the one they streamed on his girlfriend's stream on Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. Terrence Crutcher, an Oklahoma jury in May, found white Tulsa police officer Betty Jo Shelby not guilty of first-degree manslaughter in the 2016 death of Terrence Crutcher, 40, who was shot shortly after Shelby arrived to find Crutcher's SUV stopped in the middle of the road. Alton Sterling, federal prosecutors announced in May they would not seek charges against 2 white police officers involved in a deadly encounter with Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge, Louisiana last summer. He was shot as the officers pinned him to the pavement. If you have somebody on the pavement, is it necessary to shoot them also?
Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
The killing was captured on cell phone video and circulated widely online, sparking demonstrations across the city. Jamar Clark, November 2015. 2 white officers, Mark Riggenberg and Dustin Schwartz, were trying to arrest a 24-year-old when he was shot once in the head. He died a day later. Witnesses said Clark was handcuffed when he was shot. Jeremy McDowell, 28, in his wheelchair.
Gotta watch out for those guys in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
Dangerous motherfuckers.
William Chapman II, former Portsmouth, Virginia police officer Steve Rankin, was sentenced last October. Oh, so here's a copy.
One sentence? Okay.
Actually went to jail.
Yeah.
2.5 years in prison for fatally shooting William Chapman II while responding to a shoplifting call.
But wait a second. What happens to cops when they go to jail? You probably know more about this than me. Without divulging too much. It's not good.
But, you know, as far as I know, when cops go to jail,
that's an automatic PC.
Yeah,
you're
in
protected
custody for the whole.
With with hanging out with the Skinners.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But people, hey, come on. It doesn't matter what jail. I don't care what jail on the face.
Cops and Skinners. I fucking spit on both.
Yeah, and you can get to anybody, can't you?
Yeah.
Because what, Epstein, right?
Yeah. Oh fuck. Don't get me going on fucking Epstein.
Okay, Walter Scott, Eric Harris, Tamir Rice, that was another big one. He was a little kid and he was in a playground and he had a toy gun.
Yeah. Now, what about recently, this happened just as the pandemic was starting, I think there was a young black man jogging in a white neighborhood.
Yes.
And he was killed by 3 white men making a fucking citizen's arrest.
So, as it turns out, that particular case, so the guy who had it on video was originally a witness, right? Because he said, I saw this going down and I have my phone, so I'm going to capture it, right? So that, we can get these guys. So the two hillbillies, the 2 guys who actually did the shooting, the father was a retired policeman, and the son, I believe, was also a cop, active duty.
And if you're making a citizen's arrest, you're kind of a fucking wannabe cop.
Well, you are.
For what?
Right?
Like, for what?
Yeah, exactly. So, and this guy was filming it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, as it turns out, they've now arrested the guy who filmed it. Because it turns out he knows both those guys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it looks like maybe this was all kind of arranged. Right? Okay. That they were like, we're going to go shoot this guy.
Like, we're going to go lynch a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like that?
Come on, get your phone, Cletus. Yeah. So, yeah. And you're right. That was just...
another one of the stories that's just lost in the fucking COVID avalanche.
Right. Exactly. So, but at the end of the day, none of this is going to change until, you know, I can only speak for myself, but, you know, like I had to change a lot of stuff when I went through recovery. Right? When I decided being a professional drunk for a living was no longer a viable occupation.
Wait, you found
career move?
You found out a way to get someone to pay you to drink?
No. But you're a full-time addict. Yeah. You're a pro, right? So I had to change a lot of things, and so I had to take a long, hard look at me and who I am and what my views were, and so I had to change a lot of stuff, and that required, like, you know, starting over and a lot of reading and a lot of asking questions and why are things the way they are, and listening to people of color tell me their story, and just basically saying, dude, you know why it is the way it is? Because A, B, and C. And so I would begin to understand. And so that I could be a better ally. And a big part of what I do is, you know this, in the entire time you've known me, I spend a great deal of time calling out other white people on their racist bullshit. And being angry. And white people get really, really upset when you call them racist. Yeah. Right? Because they're like, they will swear up and down, I am not a racist. And you're just waiting for my best friend is a person of color to come out of their mouth, and it usually does. Or I'm colorblind, I don't see color. How is that helpful? Anyways,
but they're not caricatures of racists. Maybe
no, they're not.
It's a problem of definition. They're thinking about racism as something different than you are.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Yeah. That is the problem. That is how systemic racism continues to thrive, because you have a lot of white people who go, I'm not racist. Yeah. But they say and do racist shit unconsciously on a daily basis, right? So it really, to me, this whole thing is about changing our perception, changing our thinking, and then changing how we police, changing how the media reports things. Like I said, you've never seen the headline that says cop murders somebody. It's just, the death of another black guy. So it's about changing those things and the way we think, the way we behave, and then changing laws, changing, pretty much our whole attitude towards race. And the fact that, here's the other thing too, North America and Europe, they're like, well, the last kind of holdout of the Aryans and white people in general.
Take offense that I'm an Aryan. I am a true Aryan.
If we had longer, then
Hitler was super confused. He read those esoteric books. He was doing too much meth.
Speaking of confused,
the Aryans.
Yes, the Aryans are
the Aryans. If this is even fucking true, who knows? Okay. But traditionally would be from the Caucasus Mountains and the Persia area. And the conventional history is that those people moved into northern India. That's why I look different than someone from southern India.
Okay.
Right?
Well, that makes sense. But
it's called, in the history, it was the Aryan invasion of India.
in general, when we say Aryan, when you say Aryan Brotherhood, what do you think of? Do you think about a bunch of? Do you think about Bollywood?
I think of some guys I call up when times are tough. Sticky spot, not me though.
Anyways, so really, this whole thing, and it deserves much more time than we have today, and it's something I definitely.
How much time we have right now?
We.
Oh, look at this! You can see us recording live.
Wow, that's amazing.
30 minutes.
Technology.
Yeah.
So it deserves like an entire program, and it also deserves to have like there's 2 or 3 guests that I can think of who could really speak to it and do it justice.
Hey, wait, I'm a colored person.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things I could think of that's wrong with that. You have, well, you can't see it in the monitor, but you have a "Make America Great Again" red hat.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
And the fact that you're crazy.
I just love the fact that it gets people fucking.
Yeah, you wind people up.
It gets people wound up, man. It gets people wound up, and that, you know what? I'm with you. Like there are problems. There are structural, systemic problems, but it is too simple to pin those on fucking Donald Trump. Donald Trump is
you know what? Donald Trump is not. I gotta say this. You know, the left gives him way too much credit.
Too much credit.
They're like, oh, he's this, and he's evil, and he's just undermining, and he's a Russian spy. First of all,
he's not a fucking Russian spy.
No, he's way too stupid to be a spy.
Mm-hmm.
He would be talking about that shit all day long.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and they gave me this special spy ring.
Although we did insinuate earlier that a useful idiot was used in Venezuela, so I don't know how the national security state operates, but
yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point.
And like I said, he is also the first president in God knows how long to not start a new conflict in another part of the world. Okay. I'm sure he's continuing on a couple of them, but he hasn't started a new one. It's fairly remarkable, considering the from the left at least. Talking heads, it was like, this is the end of the world. We're going to war with China. We're going to war with Korea. I mean, we got 4 more years, right? At least. Okay. To see what happens, but.
I gotta say, the first time that you mentioned this...
It blew your fucking mind, because you thought about it, and it was like, what?
It caught me off guard.
Yeah.
But then, when I had time to think about it, I'm like, yeah, you're right. He didn't start any new wars, but the amount of damage he's done in 4 years makes up for every single war that America's ever been involved in.
I don't know.
How can somebody do that? I mean, he has... Again, that deserves not just one episode. This deserves like a whole of how many things are wrong with him and his presidency. But I will say this: many people have made the argument that the reason I voted Donald Trump was because I didn't like any of the alternatives, and also Hillary's a crook. Whatever. And
she's not a crook. She's just barely fucking human. She's something other than us. Like Hillary couldn't just hang out in this room and talk with us. We'd be like, "What the fuck's wrong with you? Why are you so weird?"
Yeah.
Donald Trump could probably come in this room and just kick it with us.
But no, I would not.
I know you wouldn't, but I'm just saying.
So, but the number one thing you would hear from people is he's a businessman, and I thought. They always say, I thought. They no longer say, I think. That he could run the country better than a president. So
that's a confusion we can talk about one day, too. Because the country is not a fucking business.
Yeah, but Donald Trump is also not a businessman.
Not a businessman.
And I'll say this.
There's multiple layers of error there.
Yeah, but the main one being, and this is my main argument, that Donald Trump was not a businessman, is not a businessman. He's the only person that I know of that could bankrupt a casino. A casino is a license to print money.
That's my life's work, is to own a fucking casino.
Right. because you can't go wrong.
Yep.
What is it? The odds are always in the favor of the house. Always. You can't lose if you own a casino.
Let me tell you about racism. I don't think they would let brown men own the casino.
Oh, man, that's so not true. Anyway, so now here's another big local news, but this is international news as well. Meng Wanzhou, who is the chief financial officer for Huawei, the big tech phone company. 5G, right?
Tech or Chinese Secret Service proxy. I don't know.
Can you clear this up? Because you are the conspiracy guy.
Yeah.
The 5G. What is the 5G conspiracy? And COVID-19?
So there's no.
Because I tried really hard to wrap my head around it, and no.
So that's the thing when you go into conspiracy. There's multiple levels of lunacy. There's levels that might seem scientifically feasible, plausible. And there's also levels which are absolutely nuts. At the one level, it is the 5G microwaves, due to their length, is somehow creating or triggering COVID-19 in our bodies. The other one that is a COVID-19 is something that does exist, but due to the interaction of 5G and the unstudied effects of this type of microwave radiation on our bodies, that's worsening the epidemic, or causing it to be more fatal. I mean, if you can go it. I mean, good luck finding this shit on YouTube now. But if you DuckDuckGo it, on the search engine DuckDuckGo, you get a lot larger breadth of information that you want.
Of craziness.
It's craziness, but that's the thing with craziness, is always the seed of truth. But
this is the thing. I've always maintained this, that with all these conspiracy theories, that people spend a lot of time researching and connecting dots. Reality is way scarier than half the shit that they come up with.
Yeah, but the thing
way scary.
Yeah, but the thing with the 5G thing is, I think that people are concerned that, like, how do these initiatives just get rammed through without any public discussion? And we're always talking about being a science-based society, but people have yet to sort of like make a very, very strong scientific case for why this is okay. Like, it's going to be put everywhere in every single city, and municipality seems to be on board. And for what? Like, for what? So they can just sell us more shit faster? It doesn't seem to make any sense. So my fucking toaster can talk to my fucking fridge? Like, do you really give a shit about that at all? So people are confused about that. And I mean, people have been talking about the effects of electromagnetic radiation on insects for a long time. That seems to be a fairly feasible, like a reasonable thing, right? Like, the amount of EM radiation we're putting in the air affects different animals. We don't really know the effects they have on us. So like I said, I'm not a 5G conspiracy theorist in terms of like there's a biological effect on us. I don't know. There may be. But like I said, there's always a seed there. There's a seed of mistrust. And there's a seed of, like, what if?
But isn't that what it all boils down to? Most of the conspiracy theories is people who are fed up and feeling powerless over big government.
Perhaps, but then there's also the fact that the real conspiracies take place.
Well, that's true.
Like, what happens at the micro level can also take place at the macro. What's a fucking conspiracy? So, say we had a third friend. You and I are hanging out here, we're like, that guy's a fucking asshole. And we figure out a way to fuck him over.
Right.
That's a fucking conspiracy.
Yes.
That is and to say that there aren't levels of our society where people get together to get one over on another person or a group to their advantage, to think that that doesn't fucking happen is absolutely insane.
Yes, you're right. And speaking of conspiracies, so Meng Wanzhou, who was, and I'll give you the quick, the abridged version of the timeline in a minute, but basically, just the other day, the Supreme Court here in British Columbia ruled.
You might want to give some background on her first too, like what it maybe for people who aren't familiar. So Huawei is the biggest sort of tech company in China right now.
The Americans have banned them.
Yeah, they produce telephones, they produce network equipment,
spying,
and the allegation is that a lot of this equipment has backdoors in it to allow Chinese Secret Service and Chinese government to gain access to information in the Western world. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
But bear in mind that Huawei is an independent company. It's not a part of
I'm laughing right now.
It's not a part of the Chinese government.
Independent company. That's part of the accusation. There is no independent company in the People's Republic of China.
So let's go back to here is the background. August 22nd, 2018. A New York court issues an arrest warrant for Meng Wanzhou to stand trial in the United States. November 29th.
What is the charge?
The charge is, I'll get to it right here. U.S. learns that Meng will pass through Vancouver International Airport. December 1st, 2018.
Because she owns a house here, right?
She owns 2 houses.
Okay.
And she's under house arrest right now.
Wait.
And she lives...
Wait, she's a bigwig at Huawei and she only owns 2 houses in Vancouver?
I know. It's crazy. But they're both like well into the millions.
Yeah.
So she's arrested by Canadian police in Vancouver. The arrest is not made public until December 5th. The Chinese embassy in Canada demands her release. December 7th, court proceedings show U.S. issued the arrest warrant because it believes Meng covered up attempts by Huawei-linked companies to sell equipment to Iran, breaking U.S. sanctions against the country. December 8th, China says the arrest was extremely nasty and threatens Canada with consequences if it doesn't.
Wait, who's writing their press release? That sounds like Donald Trump. It was extremely nasty.
Nasty stuff. Let me tell you how nasty it was. I know.
These nasty women.
Yeah.
The women are always nasty.
That's true.
I think that's a good thing, but whatever.
December 10th, 2 Canadians are detained in China. A former Canadian diplomat, Michael Kovrig, and businessman Michael Spavor. China denies their arrests are related to Meng's case. No, nothing to do with her, but we're arresting these guys who haven't done anything.
Oh, shitty time to be doing business in
Isn't
China.
it? But how do we know they're not spies?
We don't.
December 11th. Okay, Meng is released on bail by a British Columbia court. U.S. President Donald Trump says he'll intervene in the case if it would serve national interest, which was that was a big deal when he said that because all the lawyers were going, oh, Jesus. We knew he was an idiot, but could he make our job any harder? Okay, so January 8th, 2019. Documents found by Reuters confirm Huawei's links to companies suspected of operating in Iran and Syria, breaking sanctions. January 22nd, U.S. Justice Department...
Well, don't get me going on Iran sanctions, but anyways.
Oh, I know. U.S. Justice Department announces it will formally seek the extradition of Meng to the United States. January 23rd, John McCollum, Canada's ambassador to China, tells Chinese language media Huawei can make a good case against extradition, thanks in part to Trump's comments about his willingness to get involved. January 26th, Trudeau fires McCollum after his comments to the press. Now, and don't we make fun of Trump for firing everybody? February 4th, 2019, Canadian canola shipments are delayed in clearing Chinese customs, slowing trade to one of Canada's biggest exporters. March 1st, 2019, Canada approves the extradition orders of Meng to U.S. March 3rd, Huawei sues the Canadian government over Meng's arrest. China claims detained Canadian Michael Kovrig stole state secrets. March 6th, China blocks most shipments of Canadian canola. April, Canadian farm exports across the board hit obstacles at Chinese ports. May 1st, China blocks shipments from 2 Canadian pork producers. June 25th, China blocks all Canadian pork shipments. July, Canada postpones the decision on whether to allow Huawei to build a 5G cell phone network in Canada and has yet to issue a decision. January 20th, 2020, Meng's legal team and Canadian prosecutors argue her alleged conduct was not illegal in Canada, an argument known as double criminality. On the question of law posed, I conclude that As a matter of law, the double criminality requirement for extradition is capable of being met in this case. The effects of the U.S. sanctions may properly play a role in the double criminality analysis as part of the background or context against which the alleged conduct is examined, wrote Associate Chief Justice Heather Holmes of the British Columbia Supreme Court in the judgment. Ms. Meng's application is therefore dismissed.
Now, do you think that any of that, anything that a court says, really has to do with any of the ultimate decision making in this case?
No, not at all. And the reason
it's superfluous.
Okay, the reason I bring this up, obviously, this all happened, long before COVID-19. But when it happened, so here's what I was pissed about. I knew nothing about, what they were arresting her for. All I knew is that basically we were expediting an American warrant at a Canadian airport with Canadian border security. And I was just, what? This has got to be illegal on like so many different levels. It has to be. So she was on her way to Mexico with a stopover in Vancouver. She owns 2 houses here, right? And if Canadian intelligence suspects that Huawei in any way, shape, or form is out to steal government secrets, why won't you let the CFO of one of the world's largest tech companies, communications companies, own 2 multi-million-dollar homes in the city?
Well, why wouldn't you?
You know what I mean?
Well, why wouldn't you though?
So they arrest her in Vancouver. A bunch of stuff happened there. For example, so customs. I don't know how this works, but apparently the Canadian Border Security Agency, is that what they're called now?
Yeah, CBSA.
Yeah, when my old man worked for them, they were just the customs.
Yeah.
He was a customs officer.
Yeah.
Right? Anyways, so apparently...
That's when you could flash your driver's license to cross the border.
Oh, yeah. And they didn't have guns.
Yeah.
And, So, anyways, apparently they are allowed to ask for your passcode to your phone and all kinds of stuff. Like, they have broad powers when it comes to if you're trying to get into Canada, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of these powers came up post 9/11.
Post 9/11, yes. Absolutely, without a doubt. And I would say...
When I tell you, Glenn, once they take a power, they never give it back.
No, absolutely. So, here's the deal. Like, Canadian law enforcement gave information that was on her phone to the FBI. That's got to be illegal. Like, it has to be.
I don't know, unless there's some sort of international operation. And unless there was some coordination at a higher level.
And then what pissed me... Yeah, and then what pissed me off is like, why are we arresting somebody on behalf of America? Like, that's your problem. You've got an idiot in charge of your country, and I don't know, why would we do that? And what it boils down to is, it's America saying, okay, what trade partnership do you value more? What relationship do you value more, ours or China?
This is a really tough position for me, because it's like, if you're an American and you're watching this, you're listening to this, it's like, imagine, like, I'm wearing a t-shirt that says California. We got as many people as in fucking California in this entire fucking country.
Yeah.
And here we are in this position, just pinned in between 2 behemoths. What the fuck are we supposed to do? This is tough for me, man. It's like, pick your fascist, right? You like your red shirts or your fucking stars and stripes?
How about pick neither? How about have...
What are the consequences of that?
How about have...
That's actually, I never even considered that.
How about have a little integrity and go, okay, maybe she did, maybe she didn't, but you know what? None of our business. She's just stopping over on her way to Mexico.
Yeah.
If she did something in our country, we would have arrested her. But it's your problem. Yeah. And by the way, you've got an idiot running your country.
Well, so then let's look over the past 4 years. It's like, I've heard this before. I heard this a little while ago somewhere. Someone was talking about it in a podcast. It was like, Latin American quote unquote dictators have been talking to each other about like, don't fuck with the Americans. They're crazy. And we have seen that. It's like, how quick have they been to retaliate? Like NAFTA was torn up just like that. And there have been moves against different resource producers in Canada made out of the blue with fairly devastating effects on regular Canadians. So I think that higher ups are having to compute some of these equations.
Well, I think so. It basically just two things kind of pissed me off.
Like, to do nothing, you're just going to get fucked both ways.
Well, that's true. But I guess what pissed me off was, like, why are we doing the Americans' bidding? And number two, it's always a racist element there. You know, when you mention racism, people immediately think, oh, America. Canada is just as racist. We are a nation founded on settler colonialism. You know, murder, rape, whatever it took to...
I call it conquest.
Yeah, there you go. So, you know, basically racism, systemic racism runs deep in this country, in this province, especially British Columbia.
But what does this specific case have to do with racism? Because I mean, I'm sure racism is involved, but it's also about global power games.
Yeah, certainly global power games. But here in Vancouver in particular, a lot of people were like, you know, yeah, lock her up, throw her in jail, she's a spy. And
especially because I mean, and it's funny that the news media makes a big deal of the fact that she owns houses here.
Well, because
we got a lot of shit here about if you're Chinese and you own a house here, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, and again, that's the media's doing, right? Mm-hmm. There are more white European and South and Central American millionaires and Middle Eastern millionaires who own homes in Vancouver than all of the people from mainland China put together.
Really? Seriously?
Way more.
Really?
Yes.
We got to dig up some stats on this. We're gonna dig some. That's
more than happy to. Anyway, so that kind of annoyed me, and then because it was exactly that kind of scapegoating attitude when house prices in Vancouver went over $1 million. Nobody stopped to say, oh, maybe it has something to do with the greedy bastards who are running the province, the provincial government, the Liberals at the time under Christy Clark, the mayor of Vancouver at the time, what's Mr. Happy Planet Juice motherfucker?
Was it Gregor Robertson?
Everybody was making money hand over fist. And
municipalities are making money.
Everybody.
Real estate agents are making money.
Vancouver.
The local community elites are making money.
They were making money. And that's how we now have housing prices that are completely out of reach for anyone except the ultra-rich. But also it was that, you know, the media was quick, and so was everybody else to go, oh, it's the Chinese. They're the ones.
But it's funny, though, because this gets really, really nuanced. If you think about it, because then it's obvious there is Chinese money coming into
without a doubt.
That's a big part of the demand. That's the case in a lot of cities in this world.
Well, but it became like Vancouver is now known in international law enforcement. When they talk about money laundering, they say the Vancouver model, because what they used here in British Columbia was basically real estate and casinos. So you had a couple of things going on. There was people trying to move money out of China, right? Because they wanted to out. You know, and they'd also they borrowed a
lot of money from
ton of money from
the government of China.
The government.
Companies like Huawei.
Yeah. So, anyways, there was that, and then there was organized crime was part of it because of the money laundering aspect, right? And again, I go back to the government at the time who allowed it to happen. You can't tell me that, you know, River Rock Casino in Richmond was one of the big ones on the list that they talked about. And an employee who even said, they would come in with hockey bags full of $20 bills. Now you telling me you work at a casino and somebody comes in with a hockey bag full of 20, you're not going to say, I think I have to check with my manager or supervisor?
hey man, the nail salon's doing well. Like, fuck off. Like, this is legit. It's
exactly.
Like,
So, anyways, so there was there has been a long time in this province anti-Asian sentiment. Whether it be East Asian, South Asian, it's been going on for a long time. And now with COVID-19, it's reared its ugly head again. We've had, like a fair number of assaults against Asian people here. It's gotten to the point, and I kind of take it personally, like when it's gotten to the point where my wife is Japanese and I worry about her going shopping. You know what I mean? That like freaks me out. And so I don't let her. And also I don't go, she also, she doesn't want me to go out in public with her because like she knows I'm going to
you're going to pop up.
Yeah.
You might want to invest in a gun. That's the American model.
Well, again, let's not.
Like if we just had more good people with guns, like your wife, maybe some of these creeps will fuck up.
Okay then. But anyways, so we have a long history of racism here, and then when COVID-19 happened, so I talked earlier about Dr. Bonnie Henry here in British Columbia, but our provincial, that's our provincial health officer. Our federal
health minister
is Dr. Teresa Tam.
Oh, she's a spy. I heard her talk the other day. Like, did you hear that accent? It's very maniacal. It's like European and Chinese at the same time. Because she's from Hong Kong.
Yeah, she just needs like a fluffy white.
I don't trust her.
You don't trust anybody. So and this all started also with the WHO, the World Health Organization. And Dr. I'm going to probably screw this name up. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus was, now he was the WHO Director General. He was elected for a 5-year term.
Who elected him?
By WHO member states at the 70th World Health Assembly in May 2017. Now listen to this guy. He's got some serious credentials. So he is the first WHO Director General to have been elected from multiple candidates. First person from the WHO African region to serve as WHO's Chief Technical and Administrative Officer.
So if there's anyone that knows about disease, it's this guy.
Yes. Boy, and he's an...
was that racist?
He's a, whatchamacallit, he's an epidemiologist.
Oh, okay. He's a disease detective.
Yeah, he's a disease guy.
Yeah.
So he knows. He went to school about it, eh?
Yeah.
Beauty. Cool. Dr. Tedros served as... Now, here's where we get the racism and the connection with China and all this stuff, right? So he served prior to this as Ethiopia's Minister of Foreign Affairs from 2012 to 2016. In this role, he led efforts to negotiate the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, in which 193 countries committed to the financing necessary to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Dr. Tedros served as Ethiopia's Minister of Health also from 2005 to 2012. But here's where people are saying, because China...
I'm going to identify two problems for you here. First of all, this is cut and dry. First of all,
it's cut and dry.
Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Probably Muslim.
Yeah, okay.
Number 2.
Yes.
Africa.
Uh-huh.
Chinese money. 2 strikes, you're fucking out.
Well, this is the thing, right? So that's what people are saying. They're saying because China invested heavily in Ethiopia...
He's compromised.
Yeah. The transformation he led as Ethiopia's Minister of Health improved access to health care for millions of people. Under his leadership, Ethiopia invested in critical health infrastructure, expanded its health workforce, and developed an innovative health financing mechanisms. There we go. The lack of transparency by Beijing directly enabled COVID-19 spread. The experience of China, the WHO, and COVID-19 should leave the world with no illusions. As the saying goes, crisis reveals character, and it has become abundantly clear in recent months that China has no interest in supporting the international system, even when such cooperation could have saved lives. These are all things that are being accusations that are being leveled at both the WHO and China, right?
This is so human. It's like if shit goes down, it has to be someone's fault.
Well, okay, this is the other thing.
Yeah. See, what happens on the micro happens at the macro.
Right, and thank you for bringing that up, because at the end of the day, that's something that has been annoying the shit out of me since we happened to, start the lockdown because of COVID-19. It was just a bunch of people stuck in their houses going, who can I blame for this, for my big fucking inconvenience in my rich, white, privileged life, right? That's what it boiled down to, and the thing is, there's plenty of time when we get things under control, when we can go back to some sense of normalcy, and when there's a vaccine and everything else, then we can start to look at, okay, who screwed up, right?
Yeah.
Fine. Right now is not the time.
This story will not reveal itself for a long time. This and all these little individual incidences are just small little snapshots. It's like your story with the Huawei. That's part of a much, 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 much bigger story. That's part of a new Cold War story.
Well,
right?
and then, as I was saying before,
this is probably part of a new Cold War story too. They're related.
So Dr. Tam, Dr. Teresa Tam, right? So we had, I think, 3, MPs in Canada basically going, they were conservative, right-wing nutcases, right?
My people.
But what a lot of people were upset with was, the conservative leadership who just basically said, we don't want to...
Mind you, they don't really have a leadership right now.
Well, they don't, but Cheer is still their butt boy. So, allegations connected to Tam's work with the World Health Organization, which came under suspicion for basing its guidance on how to respond to COVID-19.
One thing about Andrew Scheer, though.
Yeah.
Just look at his face.
He's weaselly.
I wouldn't trust him around my kids.
No.
He's got that fucking look. I am not insinuating in any way, shape, or form that Andrew Scheer harms children. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't let him hang out with my family.
No, neither would I. For a number of reasons.
He's got that haircut.
So they're saying that she based her COVID-19 response on China, who basically lied. And here's the other thing I got to say about China and their response to COVID-19 was, so we don't really know what it was at the end of the day. China has not been, wiped out by COVID-19 by any stretch of the imagination. People said the numbers are huge. Yeah, because like a gazillion people live there.
Living on top of each other.
Yes, so of course the numbers are going to be huge. But
just like they are in New York City.
And also I'm wondering how, we conveniently got stuff like, oh, did you see that video recording of the doctor who tried to report it but then died? And it's like, so the only information we were getting supported people's position that China was lying and they're the cause of this whole thing because it came from a wet market in Wuhan. There are wet markets all over Asia. There's wet markets. Granville Island is a wet market.
There's a biolab 800 feet away from that wet market.
Right, there you go.
The Wuhan biolab.
Yes, but...
where they work on viruses.
Exactly.
It's several hundred feet from that wet market. Just saying. Just saying.
Anyways, but at the end of the day...
But that's what they're saying now. An article came out just the other day that the wet market was not the genesis of the virus, but it was a super spreading site.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, there are teams of physicians who all they do is go around the world testing different animals, different species of bats, stuff like that, to see what kind of viruses that they have that they could spread. And I'm going to say this, right? As long as we continue to...
You still think this came from an animal?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
Possible. It's one of the possibilities. It's one of. I'm sure it came from an animal at some point. How many hands it crossed before it entered the human species? I don't know.
Anyways, I believe that as long as we continue to, encroach further and further on the environment, as long as we're still destroying, thousands of hectares a day in the Amazon rainforest, so that they can have ranches, cattle
so that
ranches,
we can,
stuff like that.
So that we can advertise McDonald's over our 5G towers.
Exactly. So as long as you're, destroying the environment, man is going to continue to have closer and closer contact with species of animals that they normally wouldn't, and there's going to be more viruses.
Mm-hmm.
And you can point the finger at whoever you want, but at the same time, are we to learn from what we're doing right now so that the next time it happens, we're going to be a little better off? Or are we just going to be, the usual, just barely one step above, chimps,
mm-hmm.
and arguing and beating each other?
And finding out who to kill after it's all said and done. The survivors find out the guy who they want to fucking string up.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
I you know what? I gotta say, I'm watching the news. I'm watching the news in Brazil. I'm watching the news in the States. And I'm pretty proud to be Canadian. I know you. I know it's hard for you to say this, but like,
you know what? I did say. I gotta admit.
And our system sucks, but it's like it's withstood this pressure fairly well.